Hey there, I'm Tucker, and you're watching D&D Daily, where we release new D&D content every day. If you're looking for D&D inspiration and information, then you're in the right place, because today we're talking about the hybrid, a crossbreed who hunts both breeds. If you want to play the hybrid, there's two things you're going to need. First, your race will need to be Dhampir, and second, you're going to need to be a Path of the Beast Barbarian. The hybrid has an interesting lineage. On his mother's side, he has vampire blood. She was a vampire that learned to hate vampires and wanted them eradicated. While on the other side, his father was a Lycan. And just like the mother, he learned to hate Lycans and view them as a menace to society, and as such wanted to eradicate his own past. So, the hybrid, being born of both of them, was trained and raised to be the bane of both vampires and werewolves, with the goal of eradicating all of them. The hybrid grew up in a supportive and loving household, but they were very intense in their training and getting him ready to fulfill their goal in life, which was eradicating the vampires and the Lycans. And as he came of age at the end of his training, his final test was to kill his mother and kill his father to prove that he was ready to go out into the world and fulfill their mission. And now, the hybrid travels the world, going to learn about it, and specifically looking for any vampires and any Lycans that he can find, tracking them down, hunting them, and with his ultimate goal in mind of the eradication of those monsters from the earth. The hybrid is very well trained in what he does. From all the years of training and hard work that he has, he knows exactly how to get the job done. Though it might not always be pretty, he will get that end result. The hybrid revels in the night. He's part vampire, so he doesn't like the sun, even though it doesn't hurt him. However, when the full moon is out, he also becomes a lot more bestial because of his Lycan heritage. The hybrid also has a varying personality dynamic because of his different lineages. Because of his vampire traits, sometimes he's very refined. Because of his Lycan traits, however, sometimes he's quite feral. But most of the time, he centers around being a rugged, mountain men-esque personality type character. In combat, the hybrid is going to use his high speed, his high mobility, and his ability to jump and spider climb to create this three-dimensional movement that is unlike any other character. For example, he could do a standing high jump going straight from the floor to the ceiling. Or he can jump from the ceiling to a wall. He can jump from the wall to a pillar. He can jump from the ceiling straight onto his target. In any enclosed space, like a room or a area with pillars or a cave, he's going to have great mobility and can use that terrain to his extreme advantage. The hybrid is also very diverse in his combat tactics. He is very good at hit and run because of his mobility, but he is also very tanky, and he can use that to his advantage, and he can switch between his different fighting styles on a dime. Whenever you rage in this class, you also get a Form of the Beast ability, which allows you to either have a bite attack, a claw attack, or a tail attack, and each of those comes with its own abilities. The go-to for an aggressive fighting style is going to be the claws, and the go-to for a defensive fighting style is going to be the tail. But because you can choose each one of these every time you rage, it makes your character very versatile. However, you should not really be taking the bite ever, because your Dhampir racial ability to bite is simply just better. As a well-trained hunter, he's going to analyze the combat beforehand, and he's going to pick which of these styles is going to fit what his needs are. Going along with this, and this player's versatility in different combat situations, he has a lot of different combos that he can use to his advantage in different situations. For max damage, you're going to want to use your main weapon, which we use a great axe, and then 2 claw attacks as your attack action. For sustained healing, you're going to do 2 claw attacks and then your Dhampir bite. To get max healing, you'll just do 2 of your Dhampir bites. And these bites also get advantage if you're less than half health, so keep that in mind when you're about to use them. If you really need that grapple for your team, you're going to want to bite as your first attack, and instead of taking the healing, you take that bonus and put it towards your next skill check, and that is what you'll use for your grapple. And lastly, if you are looking for a defensive combo, you're going to use your 2 weapon attacks, so again the great axe, and then you're going to have your tail as your Form of the Beast transformation, but not attack with it. And this is going to give you 2 attacks with your big weapon and a defensive reaction against 1 attack. And one thing to keep in mind when you're playing this character is that Barbarians have resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. So anytime you can block a hit or you can heal, it's going to do so much more for the tankiness of your party. Out of combat, your character is going to be the muscle of the party. You're going to be the big, strong guy who intimidates people with his sheer raw strength. And probably your bestial features. You also have very good vertical mobility, so you can get into a lot of places that your teammates might not be able to. For example, if your party needed to climb a wall or get to the top of a building, but all they have is a rope and no way to tie it to the top, you can just carry that rope up there with your spider climb, tie it at the top, and let it down for them. This character is also going to be a trapper. He's going to be very good at setting traps, making traps, and looking for unique ways to hunt his prey. In the Hybrid's Downtime, he is going to be hunting down and looking for traces of lichens and vampires around him. He'll also probably be traveling to places where he hears about lichens and vampires in pursuit of them. He'll also be making plans to exterminate these targets with extreme prejudice. With this character's bestial nature, he'll also be very focused on the hunt. When he's in nature, he'll go hunt beasts for food, and he'll just hunt them for sport. There's a number of key mechanics that make the Hybrid so unique as a character. First is his Dhampir spider climb, which allows him to climb on any vertical and horizontal surface. This spider climb ability, along with his high base movement speed and his bestial soul ability to jump extremely far, gives him huge movement in all three dimensions. Some necessary proficiencies for the Hybrid would be athletics, acrobatics, and survival. Athletics gives him his high jump. Acrobatics gives him the ability to land his jumps and land on targets if he wants to. And his survival goes along with his hunting nature. Another requirement for this character is that his weapons would all be silvered. If he's using his great axe, it would for sure be silvered. And a great feat to take is mobile, to give him those extremely good hit and run tactics. But if you find yourself at an odd strength later on down the line, consider taking Slasher to make his enemies slower. Now, the weaknesses of the Hybrid are pretty clear, similar to other big muscly characters, and the first one is going to be ranged combat. He doesn't have very many ranged options. Though he can close the gap quite quickly, he cannot hit from range. He's also going to be very poor at all of his mental saving throws, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, but especially wisdom, just because it comes up so often. Using this character as an NPC, he could be an ally or an enemy to the party. As an ally, he could be a lichen hunter or a vampire hunter that is requesting the party's help in order to get the job done. As an enemy of the party, there could be a scenario where the party is assigned or makes friends with a lichen, and they're trying to protect him from this hunter character. If you run a combat with the Hybrid, make sure to put it in a tight enclosed space with a lot of vertical surfaces. This could be a room with a ceiling, a cave, a room with a lot of pillars, or a thick forest with a lot of trees for him to climb around on. A combat with the Hybrid in it should very much highlight his vertical movement, his high movement speed, and his acrobatics in general. How would you use the Hybrid in one of your games? How would you make it better? Let us know in the comments below. You can also tell us what you thought of this video by either giving us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Either way, it helps us know what you thought about this. And on the next episode of D&D Flavor Builds, we're going to be talking about the Commando, a scrappy veteran who's out to finish what he started. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because you're not going to want to miss it. See ya!